Hi, and welcome to tonight's sleep story. My name is Lara, and I'll be your guide as we journey towards deep relaxation and restful sleep. Begin by settling into a position that feels warm and supportive. Whether you're lying down or sitting comfortably. When you're ready, close your eyes softly. Take a deep, steady breath in, feeling the gentle expansion of your chest, and then exhale slowly, letting go of the day's stress and tension. With each breath, allow yourself to sink deeper into the present, leaving behind the busyness of the day and embracing this calm, quiet moment. In a valley, untouched by time, where the mountains stood like silent guardians, a small river began its journey. The sun had just risen, casting golden light across the landscape. The river started high in the mountains, its waters fed by the snow that had melted into the night. The water was cold and pure, and it flowed gently through the rocky crevices, making its way downward toward the valley. At first, the river moved quickly. It was young and full of energy, excited to begin its journey. It rushed through narrow channels, over stones and rocks, its waters splashing loudly, breaking against the hard surfaces. The river thought that by rushing, it would reach the valley faster, where it had heard stories of wide meadows and open skies. But as the days passed, the river began to notice something. The faster it rushed, the more obstacles it encountered. Large boulders blocked its path, and the rocks, sharp and jagged, scraped against its waters, slowing its progress. The river realized that rushing only made the journey more difficult, and the pain of the obstacles left it feeling exhausted and unfulfilled. One day, as it was flowing through a dense forest, the river paused. The trees surrounding it were tall and ancient, their roots deep in the earth, their branches stretching high into the sky. The river had been moving quickly for so long, but now, something in the stillness of the forest made it slow down. It noticed the way the sunlight filtered through the leaves, creating patterns on the water's surface. The sound of the rushing water seemed louder here, more intrusive. For the first time, the river wondered why it had been rushing so much. What was the rush? The more it thought about it, the more it realized that it didn't need to hurry. The journey was its own, and rushing through it meant missing the small joys, the gentle beauty that the world had to offer. From that day on, the river began to flow more slowly. It didn't force its path, but allowed the water to move naturally, taking its time to embrace the curves of the land. It learned to flow with the contours of the earth, around the stones, and under the branches of trees, through wide meadows and quiet fields. Each moment seemed richer now, each bend in the river a new adventure to discover. It wasn't long before the river came upon a wide and calm lake. The surface of the water was still and smooth, reflecting the sky above like a perfect mirror. The river watched this reflection and felt a deep sense of peace. It realized that the lake had been in no hurry to form. Over time, it had grown still and calm, embracing the quiet nature of its existence. The river began to understand that there was wisdom in stillness. It didn't have to rush to become something else. It was perfect in its natural state, flowing gently and steadily. The lake, though still, was never stagnant. It was part of the continuous flow of life, receiving water from the river and sharing its stillness with the world. Days passed, and the river continued down the mountain. It passed through valleys where the trees stretched their limbs towards the sky, their leaves whispering in the wind. The river heard their quiet songs and felt the stillness in the air. It was as if the world itself was trying to tell the river something. The river realized that everything around it was moving in a perfect rhythm. Each tree, each stone, each living creature had its place in the world, and they were all connected through the flow of life. The river began to notice how the land around it was changing. The mountains were no longer towering over it, but rather rolling hills and soft meadows stretched out in every direction. The sky seemed endless, and the air was thick with the scent of flowers. It was a place of peaceful tranquility. One evening, just before the sun sank below the horizon, the river came to a small village. The houses were simple but charming, with wooden beams and thatched roofs. People gathered by the water, dipping their hands into the cool stream, washing their faces, and collecting water for their homes. The river could hear their laughter, their voices blending with the gentle sound of its flow. The people were not in a hurry. They took their time, their actions as calm and deliberate as the river itself. The river watched them for a while, and a thought came to mind. The people, just like the river, did not need to rush. They had learnt the same lesson. The beauty of life was in the moments of stillness, in the pauses, in the simple act of being present. As the sun disappeared, casting long shadows over the land, the river moved on. The village was now behind, but its peaceful energy stayed with the river. It had learned that there was no need to compare itself to others, or try to be something it was not. The river was content to simply be what it was, flowing steadily through the land, embracing each moment. After some time, the river came across a thick forest, darker and deeper than any it had seen before. The trees here were enormous, their trunks twisted and gnarled with age. The river had heard that this forest was ancient, and that few had passed through it. It hesitated at the edge of the forest, wondering what awaited inside. As it entered the shadow of the trees, the river felt the air grow cooler. The forest was quiet, save for the rustling of leaves and the occasional distant call of a bird. The river moved slowly, cautiously, through the woods, winding its way between the trees and over the tangled roots that threatened to block its path. But soon, the river realized something. The more it flowed, the more it felt a deep sense of connection to the forest. It could feel the energy of the trees, the quiet hum of the earth beneath it. There was something sacred about this place, something ancient and wise. It was as if the river had entered a world where time moved differently, where the rush of the outside world could not touch the stillness within. The river began to understand that this forest, like the rocks and the hills, was part of its journey. The trees stood tall and silent, watching the river as it passed. They had seen countless seasons, witnessed the changing of the world, and yet they had never moved. They were patient, accepting the passage of time, knowing that all things would eventually change in their own way. The river realized that it, too, was part of that cycle, part of the greater flow of life that connected everything. As the river continued through the forest, it no longer rushed. It moved with the rhythm of the trees, with the rhythm of the earth itself. The river had learnt to trust its path, to flow with whatever came its way. It was not concerned with the destination. It had found peace in the journey. When the river finally emerged from the forest, it felt different. It had been transformed. It had learnt that the obstacles along the way were not to be feared. They were opportunities to grow, to deepen its understanding of the world. The river realized that every part of the journey, every twist and turn, had shaped it into something more than it had been before. In the days that followed, the river encountered many more wonders. It passed fields of golden crops, where the wheat swayed in the wind, ready for harvest. It crossed bridges built by humans, strong and sturdy, yet always welcoming the flow of water. It passed through valleys where the air was thick with mist, and the sun shone softly, casting long shadows on the earth. And through it all, the river moved at its own pace. It flowed steadily, peacefully, accepting the changes that came with each new turn. It had learnt to embrace the ebb and flow of life, to trust that everything would unfold as it was meant to. The river had learnt that it was not the destination that mattered. It was the journey, the moments in between that held the true beauty. Finally, after many long days, the river reached the vast open ocean. The ocean stretched endlessly, as far as the eye could see. The river, now flowing gently and steadily, approached the edge, knowing that it had come full circle. But instead of feeling sorry or regret for its journey ending, it felt peace. The river had learnt the most important lesson of all, that it was not the destination that mattered. It was not the end that was important. It was the flow, the journey itself, that had shaped it, that had given it meaning. The ocean was vast and endless, but the river had already found its peace. It had already arrived, not at the end, but at a deeper understanding of the journey. As the river flowed into the ocean, it merged with the water, becoming part of something far greater than itself. And in that quiet moment, the river realized that it had always been part of the ocean, just as it had always been part of the land, the sky, and the world. It was a peaceful, eternal flow, one that could never truly end. Good night.